again, no countdown. What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Cannonballs podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Dane Cannon. Co-hosting with me today is
your boy, Jake Mother Effing Bulls on the mic 1-2. And Dane, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, holy freaking banana craps. The freaking Monday night game is what we're covering first. This is a power rankings
this is a
episode.
Two-parter.
Yeah. But man, what an emotional roller coaster, Dane. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, RIP. He's most likely out for the season. He got hurt in his first drive as a Jet.
Fourth play. And dude, it was just the wind was sucked out of that stadium. The wind was sucked out of me, honestly. It reminded me as a fantasy owner of Aaron Rodgers with that Garrett Wilson stack.
That and the what was I gonna say? The fact that the wind was sucked out of me as a football fan. I was expecting, probably. I mean, it was still a great game. Don't get me wrong, but I really was excited to see Aaron Rodgers out there, and it was just, as a fan, it was just deflating. It felt like to me, it was the same feeling when Brock Purdy got hurt in the NFC Championship game last year. Like, it was just
we're robbed
deflating.
of seeing the potential of the Jets this season, which is unfortunate because we'll get into the game, but like the defense was legit tonight. Like the Jets defense kept them in this game. But I mean, we'll dive more into the game in just a sec. It was a very high energy game on both sides of the ball. Like you said, an emotional roller coaster in a multitude of ways. We'll get into it, guys. So this is going to be our power rankings episode. We are going to be covering Monday night because we are recording right after the game. Follow us on our Instagram here. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. Jake, do you have anything to add before we get going?
I think we covered J.K. Dobbins getting hurt. You can hear me, correct?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, my settings are all weird right now, so I can't hear myself. I don't know what's going on with my Elgato. But really the biggest news that we haven't covered is... Oh, actually, there was some big news that happened earlier today. Chris Jones agreed to a one-year
deal
contract. I don't know the numbers. I haven't seen any updates.
I haven't seen it posted, but yeah, he did agree to a deal, which was kind of a given after they did lose to the Detroit Lions. So I think that, he played it smart. He knew that he was willing to sit out 8 games and it only took 1. So good for Chris Jones. Kansas City definitely needs him on the defensive side of the ball.
Yes, I agree. But I think that's the only thing we have for not so breaking news. So I guess let's just get into Monday night reaction. Yeah. Like I said, Aaron Rodgers got hurt. It was very unfortunate, but holy cow, dude, that Jets defense is legit.
It is.
And it is a bummer that we're not going to be able to see Aaron Rodgers. I'm 99% sure Aaron Rodgers is done for the season.
I'm 99.999999999% sure that he tore his Achilles, because that's what the reports are coming out. That's what's going on Bleacher Report. That's what Saleh said. That's what other multiple sources, media that are covering the Jets are saying. So it's unfortunate, but seems to be a season-ending injury.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. However, I think this Jets defense might be good enough to carry them to the playoffs. I'm not even kidding. If Zach Wilson came in and played like Zach Wilson terribly,
I wouldn't say it was terrible. Okay. I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish.
First 3 drives, not great at all. But then he
interception.
And then he came in the second half and actually started playing semi-decent, and we could have like a how do I say this, like, who's a quarterback that just got carried by an elite Jimmy Garoppolo. That's like one that just I mean, he's not as bad as Zach Wilson, but you know what I'm trying to say, like a defense that is so good that could actually just win them games.
You're talking about when he was on San Francisco, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I just want to make sure you weren't talking about the Raiders, because I wouldn't say that the Raiders have an elite defense by any means.
I wouldn't either.
No offense, Raiders fans. I know that it's division rivalry, but
All right, let's say I'll say this: it's we might have a Ravens and a Trent Dilfer situation where the Ravens carried that team to a Super Bowl. I'm not saying I'm not saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but I think they're going to win a lot of games with that defense. It was nasty, but both defenses played really good. It was a low scoring game.
Not to take really quick, I do want to jump in. Not to take anything away from Buffalo's defense, but I feel like their defense looked better since the Jets had to change their entire scheme. Basically, you went from having the cadence, the experience, the veteranism of Aaron Rodgers, and then you go to Zach Wilson. And I don't think anyone was expecting Zach Wilson to play, let alone in the first quarter after the first drive of the game. So I do think that there was a certain limitation to the Jets offense tonight. I think Zach Wilson's performance was up and down. Like we said, he came in, looked like the same old Zach Wilson, threw an early interception, just didn't look good, took a couple sacks, couple bad throws, incompletions, but he definitely was able to make enough happen and rely on the run game. I mean, Breece Hall, I think, is one of the biggest storylines of this offense. Breece Hall looked legit, and coming off of an ACL injury last year, I think that he doesn't have necessarily the same juice, but he still looked good enough where he could break an 83-yard run. But I feel like if he hadn't had, which he did, but I'm saying, like, if he hadn't had the ACL injury, I think he would have taken that to the house, because you could kind of see maybe the fatigue. I don't know if that's the correct word, or maybe it's like the strength of his leg couldn't catapult him into the end zone. Like, he kind of burnt out at the end of the run. You kind of saw him like get winded. So I don't know if it's just like the fact that he had to have a different type of off season or whatnot, but Breece Hall still looks great. So
yeah, I agree. I say, in my opinion, the running backs on both sides of the ball were the best players on the field, besides the defenses. Not Dalvin. Well, actually, yeah, Dalvin Cook actually looked. He's an elite running back. He's maybe a little older, but he still has something.
I don't even think
he's
that old. I think Dalvin Cook's like 26, 27.
Seriously, you're gonna have to look that up for me.
I'll look up his age. I don't think Dalvin Cook's actually that old.
Huh. But no, Dalvin Cook and
James Cook,
Breece Hall, and James Cook, they all looked pretty good. Like, James Cook hit on the stat line, it doesn't really show it.
He's 28, so he's a little bit older than I thought.
But in running back years, that's damn near 30. But I like the usage of James Cook, and I like the 1-2 punch of Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. So, I think the Jets could win a lot more games. I mean, people might count them out now that Aaron Rodgers isn't there, but that defense is legit.
I think this offensive scheme is going to rely heavily on the run game now, because, I mean, there's no more Mike White. They can't put him in over Zach Wilson. So Zach Wilson's going to have to be the guy for right now, unless they find like a quarterback on the market. But yeah, it's going to have to run. Dude, there are conversations that, like, I think that could possibly happen. Like, as unrealistic as it seems, I would do it too. Because, I mean, think about the leadership. You went with an older quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. I guarantee Tom Brady's still staying in like Tom Brady physical fitness. Like, he's still probably physically fit. I mean, he takes really good care of his body. I would trust him over Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson can offer you some utilization in the ground with his legs, but you're going to have more turnovers, in my opinion. You're going to have more costly plays. Thankfully, though, this defense is legit, man. Like, Whitehead had 3 interceptions. Quinnen Williams looked freaking great. Sauce Gardner had a couple big plays. Like, this defense is good. This defense is really good, and it's coached by a great head coach. Robert Saleh knows what the fuck he's doing on the defensive side of the ball. So I think I agree. I think the Jets are going to be good. My only concern is Zach Wilson. How much is that going to limit them in the postseason? Because I do not think that they could make it to the Super Bowl with Zach Wilson, unfortunately, unless out of nowhere, like, this turns into old school, like 90s, 80s football where they just ground and pound, baby. Ground and pound. Like, they could be that with the 1-2 punch, like you mentioned, with Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall.
Yeah, I mean, He's got wide receivers. He's got weapons. He's got the run game. He's got the offensive line. He's got the defense. It's really just on Zach Wilson's shoulders now. If they don't win games, it's going to be because of Zach Wilson.
Agreed. And not only that, Garrett Wilson had one of the most spectacular catches I have ever seen. The fact that he basically tipped it to himself, that was almost damn near perfect coverage, and he still made the catch. Like, that is insane. Like, that's what I was, as fantasy owners, those of us who do play fantasy, I went with the stack with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, thinking that it was going to be elite. I think that it had the potential to be, because after seeing that play by Garrett Wilson, you see like the trajectory that he's going as a sophomore wide receiver. Like, this guy could be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
I think the last thing I need to talk about in this game is how poorly Josh Allen played. Yeah. I'm gonna give him some slack because he was playing an elite defense. But some of those interceptions were atrocious. He also had a fumble.
4 total turnovers, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble.
Yeah. So this is why I've really simmered down on the Bills this year. It's almost, I don't know. It's hard to believe in the Bills, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think they'll be fine. They'll probably win 12 games, maybe win a playoff game, and then get knocked out second round. I don't know. I know Josh Allen can play better, but he has a tendency to have really bad games sometimes. And then he has games where he's just playing like a top 5 quarterback.
Yep.
So, I'm going to give him a little bit of slack because this defense is really good. But other than that, I think that is it for Monday night, unless we're missing anything, Dane.
No, it was a great comeback win for the Jets. They win it in overtime off of a punt return. That was awesome. Good for, what's his name? Gibson, I think, is the player who returned it to the house.
Xavier Gibson, I think.
Yeah, kid had some juice, man. That was a great way to walk it off. And it's such a bittersweet moment because Jets fans.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Jesus.
What?
The ending of the game was the best part.
Yeah, so it's such a bittersweet feeling, I think, for Jets fans, knowing that you're going to go possibly pretty much so an entire season without Aaron Rodgers. But it was a great win, and on 9/11. There's just so much history there for that city, for that state. Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, man. I just hope that they can carry the momentum and carry Zach Wilson, because I don't think that Zach Wilson is capable of carrying this team to the promised land. It's going to have to rely on coaching, defense, and the run game. I think Zach Wilson can do enough to maybe make a big play here and there, but that defense is definitely going to have to step up, because he's going to have turnovers. He had another turnover tonight, and it was an ugly interception. Like, he misses his reads, and he had so much potential coming out. There's just so much concern with him as a quarterback and as a prospect in general. So I am still decently high on the Jets because of their defense and because of their run game, but how far is that going to take them? That's the biggest question. But overall, great win for the Jets.
Yeah. If you were the Jets and you were looking for maybe a trade or a player that to bring back out of retirement, besides Tom Brady, because we already mentioned that, who would you be targeting if you're the Jets organization?
Oh, fuck, man. That's tough.
Just off the cuff.
I mean, shit, dude. If we're this player has had a great season, but he's also had a ton of bad seasons. I'm thinking Carson Wentz, maybe, because he's probably available. You could possibly bring him in. He's like a Zach Wilson because he's going to turn the ball over, but he has more experience at least. Possibly Cam Newton, possibly can run more with him in his legs. I don't trust Cam Newton passing the ball. I don't know how he is nowadays. But shit,
I like
man.
your Carson Wentz. I like your Carson Wentz pickup better.
Yeah, I do too. Overall, I'm just trying to, like you said, right off the bat, I'm just trying to think of quarterbacks that I think that they could possibly make a trade for. I genuinely believe Tom Brady is a possibility. 100%.
I think as soon as Aaron Rodgers went down, I think they were making calls. I honestly believe that. Tom Brady was I saw him at the Patriot game looking a little bit of out of shape. But we'll see. But For me, if they're gonna make it, I think they make a trade, and I think they target possibly, what I would do, Jacoby Brissett,
Yeah.
maybe Gardner Minshew.
I think Gardner would actually be a very interesting candidate because I think he's better than people give him credit for. Like, I personally like him more than Zach Wilson. I think that when he was on the Eagles last year and he had to come in and play for Jalen Hurts a couple games, he looked pretty good.
Yep. Oh, you know what? Bailey Zappi is. I don't know if the Patriots re-signed him or not.
I think they did. I think that they signed him to the practice squad.
But they're in the same. They're in the same division. That's not going to happen. Shit, man. Yeah, I think I would target Jacoby Brissett. Maybe I forget his name, the backup to Lamar in Baltimore. PJ Walker.
I was thinking Tyler Huntley.
No, Tyler Huntley. Yeah, you're right. I was just adding another name to the list. PJ Walker. I think he's still on the Panthers.
Yeah.
So you probably could trade for those players for a third, fourth, fifth. Do you try and get Mike
White back?
He's on the Broncos, correct?
I think he's on the Broncos. I don't know where he is, but like, do you try and get him back because he knows this? He knows the team. I mean, it's a different offensive scheme with Nathaniel Hackett there, but at least he knows the players.
Maybe Joe Flacco too.
Yeah,
he was there last year.
Yeah, you could bring back Joe Flacco. There's a lot of possibilities. I am intrigued to see where they go because I can't see them rolling with Zach Wilson the entire season. I really can't. Like, I know you spent so much draft capital on him, but come on.
I think they give Zach Wilson one more shot, and if he's the same Zach Wilson, actually, I think they immediately trade or sign a player in free agency, or would it be free agency? Off the wire or whatever you want to call it. I think they do it immediately because this is a win now team, right? And they'll give the shot to Zach Wilson, and as soon as Zach Wilson starts, messing up, they'll probably go with the other guy. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
Well, that was Monday Night Football, guys. A little bit of hot takes, a little bit of predictions. Hope you enjoyed it. But now we're getting to the good stuff. This is our favorite
segment,
baby. Hell yeah, baby. We are going. You like that switch up, Dane? I did it while we were talking, baby. We are doing week 2 power rankings. And, there's a lot of
movement in mine. I'll tell you that much.
There's a lot of movement in mine. And I'll say this. I dropped a couple teams a lot or pretty far down.
I did
but
too.
But it was based off week 1. Yeah,
exactly. So there's a lot of teams that I had preseason that I had higher or lower that I had to move significantly. And this is all based off of week 1, guys. I mean, this isn't an indicator of where this team's going to finish off. I need to say that like right off the bat. Like, because we move a team so much does not mean that's where they're going to end up. It doesn't mean that we think that they're going to have a terrible season by any means. Things change.
It does.
It can, but like, it's not going to. Week 1 is like prime time for overreaction. Everyone's going to overreact to week 1. And that's the thing. You have to have at least 4 games under your belt to have a pretty good indicator of how a team's going to perform. That's just my general opinion, because after the first quarter of the season, that's when teams start to finally click a little bit. Either that or injuries pile up and then it kind of derails the season. So there's a lot of things that you need to take into account here. But yeah, there's a lot of movement. So Jake, I'm ready to get going with number 32 if you're ready.
I am also ready.
All right, let's do it. So who do you have at 32?
So this might, I don't even care because I'm going to say this every week. I bet a pocket chip that this team would not win their division. They look absolutely terrible this weekend. And, they really didn't capitalize on last year. I got the Bears at 32. I dropped them 6 spots. They look bad. Justin Fields looked really good for about 3 drives and then forgot how to throw the ball. I think Justin Fields is an amazing athlete. I am just not sold on the passing. And DJ Moore getting 2 targets. The run game looked okay, but they got to do something because otherwise they're going to be at the bottom three again because they did not impress me at all this week. So I got the Bears at 32.
All right. At 32, I have Arizona staying put. Granted, I think that they played pretty well. I think their defense stepped up. I think that they played higher than expected. They just didn't have that clutch factor. And I think that's because you have limitations in Dobbs at quarterback. Passing attack, I mean, there's not many options. You have Hollywood Brown, Rondell Moore, Zach Ertz. Who else? Shoot, why am I blanking his name? Anyway, the offense did not look good. Granted, you're going against Washington, who has a pretty significant defense. The ground game with James Conner didn't look amazing by any means, but the defense, I think, is the highlight. Like, it performed way better than I expected. And I thought this defense was going to get blown out, but it didn't. So I have Arizona at 32. I am kind of curious to see if they are going to win a game this year. I don't know if they're tanking, but they did play better than I expected. I just can't pick them against anyone else as of right now. At 31, I have the Bears. So I did drop them a lot too. I dropped them 5 spots. Like you already said, the Bears just did not look good. Aaron Jones tore this defense apart. Jordan Love looked good. It just was not a good showing, especially at home. And we picked the Bears to win at home. Aaron Rodgers is finally gone, so break the curse. It just didn't happen. So, yeah, I have the Bears at 31.
Yeah, we just have our teams swapped. I actually moved up the Cardinals 1 spot because I think they played on defense. They played really good against the Commanders team. I think they kind of exposed Sam Howell a little bit. I don't know if that's a sign of things that come, but the defense looked decent. Not decent. I would say,
It
better than some of the worst
expected.
teams. Yeah, better. Thank you. Take the words right out of my mouth. The offense, trash. Absolutely garbage. That's why I only could move them up 1 spot. So yeah, we just got 32 and 31 mixed around. At 30, I have the Texans dropping 1 spot in my power rankings.
I have the Houston Texans at 30 as well. They dropped 2 in my power rankings.
Yeah, I mean, they did play the Ravens hard. It seems like they always do that. They did that last year. At the beginning of the season, they played teams really hard, just could never beat teams. I think they had 2 or 3 wins last year, probably 2. CJ Stroud struggled against the Ravens, but he's a rookie and that's a good defense. So I'm not going to take too much away from it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the Texans have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, Houston played them tough for, I think, a half. And then Baltimore started to separate themselves in the second half. Like you said, a rookie quarterback going against the Ravens defense, that's not necessarily fair. Unfortunately, the Ravens did lose J.K. Dobbins for the season, which is unfortunate. But Hill and other running backs were able to get it done. Zay Flowers looked good. Lamar Jackson didn't have necessarily the best game by any means, but I think that this is just a stepping stone to improve in this Ravens offense. I think that OBJ will be utilized a little bit more. Mark Andrews wasn't out there, so you had a lot of factors that played into this game. I think that they'll be just fine. And they won. They won significantly at the end of the day. But, so Houston at 30 for me as well. 29, I have Carolina.
So do I.
I dropped them 2 spots. I think that Bryce Young, I think he had a couple good moments. I think that the defense had a couple good plays, but they were outmatched. And it
the Falcons.
Yeah, it just did not click. A division opponent. It's week 1, rookie starting his first game. There just wasn't much going with the passing game. There was a little bit going with the running game. The defense had a couple plays, but eventually it just kind of fell apart and the Falcons just kind of ran all over them. So yeah, I have Carolina at 29.
Yeah, same. I agree with everything you said. It's hard when you have a rookie quarterback sometimes. Rarely do rookie quarterbacks just light the world on fire. And also they're lacking in a lot of weapons on offense. Their number 1 wide receiver is a rookie. And then they got Adam Thielen. It doesn't invoke fear in me. So the defense has some pieces, but and they have a good coach. I'll say that. But you know, they give it a couple years, maybe they'll get on track. But I don't know. And then at 28, moving up 3 spots, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I was very impressed by Anthony Richardson. I think he was the best rookie quarterback of the week. He did it with his arm. He did it with his arm. He did it with his leg. And the surprising was he did it with his arm, and he looked pretty accurate at times.
And against a good, well-coached team and the Jacksonville Jaguars that won a playoff game last year and won the division last year. So that's impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, first game, and he did really good. And I think there's a lot of question marks about Anthony Richardson, but I mean, if I had to bet on it, I would put money on him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And that defense played really well.
Defense did play well. This is one of the only times you'll see a team move up from a loss. I actually have them a little bit higher than you. At 28 for me, I have the New York Giants. I originally had them at 20.
Oh,
I had them at 20. I had them at 20. I dropped them 8 spots. Granted,
shit, Dave.
Okay, I'm going to explain myself. It's week 1. I'm not expecting this team to finish here. I think that they'll be fine, but they laid one of the worst performances I have seen from a team in week 1. 0 points, goose-egged, couldn't do fucking anything. Granted, you're going against one of the best defenses in the NFL, but you're at home. Other than your first drive where you were driving down the field and then, had a turnover, you fucked this game up. I'm sorry, like Giants fans. That was one of the most pitiful performances I've seen from an offense and a defense, special teams, everything. All 3 phases need work. And so I think this team will be fine, but that was an ugly, ugly loss. You lose 40-0 or whatever the score was. That's bad. So I have the Giants dropping 8 spots to 28.
Oof. Absolute brutality mode.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. All right. At 27, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving up 3 spots. I like the way Baker played. You know, he's got weapons around him. He's got a defense. So I like the way he played. But you know what? Baker's done this before. He plays some good games and then plays some really bad games. I don't know. I'm not going to say Baker's back. I'm not going to say, when did he get drafted? 2018. I'm not going to say 2018. Baker Mayfield is back. But I liked his performance on the week, and they played upset against a pretty good offensive team in the Vikings. So, I got the Tampa Bay Bucks at 27.
All right, at 27, this is where I have Indianapolis. I only have them 1 spot higher than you. This is, I think, the only team that I moved up after a loss, but they looked good. And with a rookie quarterback going against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think are a really good team, I was impressed with what I saw. It's not very often that we will move a team up for a loss, but they looked good. Like they looked like they could compete. This defense stepped up. Anthony Richardson looked good. Michael Pittman looked good. And this is without Jonathan Taylor. So there's a lot of factors in this game. Like what happens when Jonathan Taylor does come back? Because he'll come back, who knows when. I think he will be back, but it's like,
I think the Ravens trade for him.
That could be a possibility. The Ravens could possibly trade for him. I think that's a possibility. But if he comes back to Indianapolis, that adds another component to this offense. And with what we saw from Anthony Richardson, I think that the future is bright. I don't know how well they're going to perform this year, but I definitely think there's a lot to hang your hat on here. So, I have Indianapolis at 27. At 26, this is where I have Tampa, so I'm 1 spot higher than you. I have them moving up 4 spots. I like the performance. They beat a good offensive team. It could just be week 1. Anything happens in week 1. But like you said, I like what Baker Mayfield did. I liked what the defense did. The defense was pressuring Kirk Cousins, got after some of the run game. Justin Jefferson still had a game, but overall, I was impressed with what I saw from Tampa. So Tampa at 26.
At 26, I have the Tennessee Titans dropping 4 spots. I was impressed by the defense. I was not impressed by Ryan Tannehill at all. I think he played hard. I think he was trying to win. I do. But, he had 3 turnovers, and he didn't look great at times. So, this team is only This team needs a new quarterback. I think Will Levis sees the field this year. Depending on, how competitive they are, we might see him earlier rather than later. Yeah, they don't look great on offense, and they're just a one-trick pony. I'm not impressed by their wide receivers. D-Hop's there, but I don't think D-Hop's the same D-Hop from Houston, to be honest. I think he still can go up and get it, but I don't think it's the same. It happens when you get older. So yeah, I got the Titans at 26. At 25, I have the Commanders dropping one spot. I know they won, but it was an ugly win. Very ugly against what most people would call the worst team in the NFL. And the crazy thing is, like, you have Eric Bieniemy as your offensive coordinator. You have Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. You have so many weapons, and all this team needs a quarterback. I don't know if Sam Howell's the answer. I've seen like 2 games of him, and this one was not pretty. And they have a defense. They played terribly. Like, they almost lost this game, so that's why I have them dropping one spot.
At 25, I have the Rams. I have them moving up 6 spots. I originally had them at 31. It was a dominant performance. Close game with Seattle at first, and then the second half was just lights out. Defense balled out. Offense stepped up. Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp Jr. stepped up and got all the receptions. Tutu did well. He came out to ball. I'm taking some lines from the Fantasy Footballers. Check them out, guys. They're a great podcast if you guys want fantasy information. But I was impressed with the Rams, man. I had them at 31. I can't see moving them up too terribly much more than that. We'll see if it keeps going, though. I know my dad was happy with the win. Good for him. Stafford looked good. Matthew Stafford looked good. He was slinging the ball around, got things going. Kyron Williams, I think he looked impressive. Cam Akers, I don't think he looked very good, but I was impressed with what I saw from the Rams. They had a good scheme going up against Seattle. I think Sean McVay deserves a lot of credit here. So yeah, Rams at 25.
Nice. I have the Rams at 24.
Okay.
Moving up 3 spots. Everything you said, I agree. It was an absolute shellacking. I was texting my father-in-law. He's a Rams fan. And I told him before the game started, I was like, dude, I would love nothing more than for the Rams to just expose the Seahawks. And I think they did a little bit. I was impressed with Puka. I was impressed with Tutu. I was impressed with Matthew Stafford. I was very impressed with Kyron Williams. Notre Dame, baby. I've been waiting for him to get a shot, and I think he's finally getting it.
Yep, agreed.
My problem with the Rams is they're very young, and they have still a lot of question marks. It could be a flash in the pan type thing, but you know what? I love it, so I'm going to move them up for it. At 23, I have the Raiders moving up 1 spot. Beat the Broncos. Tough game. It was a division matchup, so anything can happen, but it was in Denver. And Jimmy Garoppolo looked decent at times. Jacoby Myers, unfortunately, is in the concussion protocol, but he balled out. So now, Devontae Adams might get force-fed. Josh Jacobs is a beast. And then they have players on defense. I like I said in our offseason episodes, I think the Raiders could be a playoff team. I think the Raiders could be a bottom 5. It all depends on if they stay healthy and if they can tighten that defense up. But, a win's a win, and I like what they did. So,
yeah. I didn't go at 24. So 24 for me is Denver. I have Denver dropping 2 spots. I think that it was a close game, division rivalry in Denver. I think there's more to hang your hat on than maybe the game showed. I think Russell Wilson actually looked better than I expected. He looked a lot better than he did last year. I think Sean Payton's going to be able to turn this team around. We'll see how long it takes, because I know that offensive scheme can sometimes be a slow burn, but the defense still looked good. I'm just dropping Denver 2 spots for a tight, close game. At 23 for me, I have New England staying put. I know that they lost, but it was competitive, and it was against a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. It is week one. You know, sometimes teams have the Super Bowl hangover, especially if they lose. But New England had a chance to win this game. So they look good.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mac Jones looked good. He had himself a game. I think Hunter Henry looked good. I think Ramondre Stevenson looked good, and the defense looked good. So I'm excited to see where this New England team goes. But I feel like I can't move them down for a loss because of how competitive they were. So I have them at 23.
What do you have at 22?
22, this is where I have the Raiders. I have the Raiders just moving up 2 spots in my power rankings. You know, losing Jacoby Myers, like you said, can impact this team a little bit, but I'm not too concerned. They still have Devontae Adams. I think Jimmy G looked pretty good, even after like a scary like moment where you thought, all right, there goes Jimmy G in the first game. But the defense, Max Crosby balled out. You know, I think, like you said, this team could be a dark horse, like playoff contender, or they could be bottom 5. So I think it was a good win against a division opponent. They're the only team in the AFC West that has a win right now. So good for the Raiders.
Wow. I think I saw something where it was like first time since like
in history.
In history?
History. That's what I saw. I saw history. Maybe I read it wrong.
I thought I saw 2017, but you
has it been 2017?
Like since they like led in the division.
Oh, I thought okay. The thing that I saw was it's like the first time in history that the Raiders, the Browns, and then like 2 other teams won the first week of the season, or all started off with a winning record. It was like 2 other teams that you wouldn't expect.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, we saw 2 different things.
Yeah. I just saw this is the first time that the Raiders have had sole possession of first place in the division since 2017 or something like that. So back to the power rankings at 22, I have the Steelers dropping 3 spots. I think they'll be Steelers are tough because everyone was saying they have this good defense. They have this good young offense. But it didn't show up at all on Sunday.
Granted, they lost Deontay Johnson as well.
Yes, thank you. Granted, they played the 49ers, but I still think they should have had some sort of production. The only person on the field that did really anything was TJ Watt. And surprise, surprise, he's a former defensive player of the year. You know, Kenny Pickett didn't look good at all. This team will probably go 8-9, 9-8, whatever, and miss the playoffs like the last 2 years in a row. They just I don't know. The other couple of other teams impressed me more than the Steelers. Really wasn't a game. At 21, I have the Falcons moving up 4 spots.
I have the Falcons moving up 4 spots as well to 21.
Nice. I think they played. They have an elite run game. Like it's elite. I'm gonna call it elite. They got a star running back. They also have Tyler Algier. Unfortunately for Bijan Robinson owners, but Tyler Algier is good, man.
Yeah.
And Cordell Patterson was on not IR, but he was inactive this game. But when he's healthy, he's a good runner as well. He's an athlete. They call him the Joker in Atlanta. So they have an elite run game with elite running backs. If they ever decide to start throwing the ball, watch out. But I'm not really scared of Desmond Ridder. Lucky for him, his coach wants to run the ball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you got Kyle Pitts, you got Drake London, you got Mac Hollins. Like, this team could throw it if they trusted their quarterback, but they don't. Either way, I think it was a dominant win over the Panthers, and all they did was run. So it just proves that the run game is still alive in the NFL, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to just touch on the other side of the ball. I think the defense performed really well. I think that the secondary looked good. The defensive line looked good. And so if you can slow the game down with the running attack and then your defense performs well, you have an opportunity to win any game you're in. So I liked what I saw from Atlanta. I have them moving up the exact same amount of spots. So that's awesome.
That's the recipe that the 49ers were winning, a couple years ago, like with Jimmy. They would just slow the game down, play really good defense and run the ball. So it can work.
Yeah. At 20, for me, this is where I have Washington. I only have them moving up one spot. I was higher on them to start off the season than you were. But yeah, it was an ugly win. But a win's a win in the NFL, and it is week one. So I'm going to give them a little bit of grace here. I'm going to give them a little slack and a little bit of leeway. I just want to see them fix things up. And I don't know if Sam Howell is the answer. Like you said, he just did not look like he did in the preseason. Granted, it is week one. Maybe the Cardinals defense is better than we give them credit for. They are led by Jonathan Gannon, who was the defensive coordinator of the Eagles. So maybe the defense of the Cardinals will be better. But yeah, I have Washington only moving up one spot. I want to see a lot more from this team, and I want them to clean up a lot of stuff.
What number are we on, Dane? You just did 21?
I just did 20.
All right. So at 20, I have the Broncos moving down 2 spots. I agree with you. I think it was a good game for the Broncos, honestly. Way better than last year. The defense was playing hard. There was some offensive production. Russell Wilson didn't look bad. It was just they lost the game. And, there's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. And it was a close game. I mean, the Raiders barely won. They won by a point. So I think it could have gone either way. But I think if you're a Broncos fan, I think you should be more excited than last year.
Who do you have at 19?
At 19, I wasn't as brutal as you, but I did drop them pretty far. I got the Giants at 19, dropping 5 spots. Yeah, absolutely pathetic performance. I'm not on the boat that you are in. I think they'll be better than 40-0. I do. But I've been a believer that they're going to regress from last year. I don't think they make the playoffs. Their wide receiver room is not impressive to me. Not at all. Like maybe Jalen Hyatt can emerge, but other than that, I'm not impressed. I like Saquon Barkley, and I'm just not a believer in Daniel Jones. Never have, and I don't think I ever will. I like his running ability, I really do, but I don't know. I'm not a Giants fan. I don't think they're elite. I think they're just mediocre. So yeah, I got them at 19, and Sunday night showed that.
Yes. 19 for me, I have Tennessee. I have them dropping only one spot. I think their defense looked disgusting. I think that they gave Derek Carr problems all game. I am very concerned with this offense. You can rely on Derrick Henry, but quarterback play has to be significantly better. And like you said, I kind of agree with the sentiment that Will Levis is going to get an opportunity to play at some point this year, especially if Ryan Tannehill keeps regressing the way he has the last 2 years. I feel like when he first came over from Miami, he looked great, and it's just been slowly dwindling down. So Tennessee's defense, I think, is top tier, especially against the run. But they're going to have to figure out the offensive side of the ball, and they get a good opportunity against one of the worst defenses coming up in week 2 against the Chargers. So that'll be a good opportunity for them to see how they do. But I have Tennessee at 19. At 18, this is where I have Pitt. I have Pitt dropping 2 spots. I think I was higher than you on Pittsburgh to start the rankings. I'm going to give more credit to the 49ers defense. I think it is top 3 defenses in the NFL. I think that it was a rough outing against the 49ers week 1. I liked what I saw, especially from TJ Watt. 3 sacks. The defense I think will improve, but you're going up against one of the best offenses in the NFL also. You're going up against arguably the best running back in the NFL with Christian McCaffrey. Brandon Ayuk, who's emerging to be a top 5 wide receiver, in my opinion. That's a hot take, top 5, but he is looking like he has the talent. And not only that, his blocking, I think, is one of the best blocking wide receivers I have ever seen. On that screen pass to Christian McCaffrey, he did not just pancake someone. He blocked a second defender. Like, that is just, you can't coach that. Like, that is willpower. That is just pure just domination. And I love what I saw from this offense. Not to boast your team up too much, Jake. I'm high on the 49ers this year. I think that they're going to go far. And I think we saw a lot from the 49ers, so I'm not going to take too much away from Pitt here. I think that they'll be fine. Kenny Pickett definitely has to figure out a couple problems out, especially with Deontay Johnson out. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Pitt at 18.
At 18, this is one of the 2 teams I moved. Well, I think this is the only team I moved up for losing, and it's
No, you
because
moved Indianapolis up.
Oh, I did. Okay, sorry. Second team I moved up for losing, but they played
New England.
Yes, New England Patriots. I was very impressed with Mac Jones. I have not been a Mac Jones guy, really since he's been in the league. Maybe it's because we took Trey Lance instead of him, but he looked great. He looked really good. The offense just looked good, and the defense is legit. I think they're a top 10 defense. Christian Gonzalez, man, he made some plays, and I'm excited to see him. And they almost beat the Eagles, man. That's the reigning NFC champions. Yeah, they really made the Eagles look out of sync. So I was very impressed with the Patriots, even though they lost. I'm very excited for this AFC East. Sorry, division. If the Patriots can be decent, look out, man, because this could be a wild division. Shoot. All right, so 17. I have the Packers moving up 3 spots.
I have the Packers at 17 as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't high on them last week. So 3 spots, 20.
I have them moving up 2 spots.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Jordan Love played well. I think he did. He was missing some of his weapons, but Aaron Jones was a beast. That defense was great, but Aaron
Jones also did injure his hamstring. We do need to take a note of that. So that's one thing to monitor.
Mm-hmm. So AJ Dillon time. Woo! I'm not impressed by the quality of the win. I mean, I dropped the Bears 6 spots to 32. Yeah. I was not impressed by the Bears at all. I literally, if I only could watch that game, I'd probably go do chores. It was such a boring game. I'll say Jordan Love distributed the ball where it needed to go, but it wasn't really hard throws that he was making. But you know what? He did what was asked of him to do. So I do want to see him against
a more competitive defense.
Yeah. Before I can say the Jordan Love era is here, I want to see him against, I don't know, top 15 defense or in a tough matchup. I'm not going to, give him too much credit, but he did play good.
Yeah. I do want to say this really quick. I don't mean for us to toot our own horns, Jake, but we did get called out by some Chicago fans in one of our preseason rankings. And this just goes to show why we were not as high on the Bears defense. And I hate to say we told you so, but everyone looks good in the offseason. Everyone thinks that their team's going to do great. Everyone has the highest expectations of their team when everyone's healthy. And in training camp, everyone looks better than they are. And unfortunately, I am not very high on the Bears defense. They were number 32 overall last year for a reason. So that's the only reason I didn't move Green Bay up for a dominant performance. It's because it was against the Bears. Granted, it was in Chicago, so that I will give them a little bit of credit there. I think Jordan Love looked composed under pressure in certain aspects. I think it was up and down, but he did have 3 touchdowns, I believe. Did it without Christian Watson. Romeo Doubs, even though he only had 20-some yards reception, he had 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones was the story. And, the Green Bay Packers defense balled out against Justin Fields, who is not one of the stronger passing quarterbacks in the NFL. But granted, division opponent, tough place to play in Chicago. They got out with the dub, so good for Green Bay. I have them at 17 as well. 16, I have my boys, the Chargers. I dropped them 3 spots. Offense looked great. The running attack, I can't tell you the last time I've seen the Chargers rush for over 200 yards. You have a positive turnover differential. You had 2 takeaways. You rushed for 200 yards. You scored 34 points. But yet you still lose. This defense looked atrocious. They were the ones who stopped Miami last year. They held them still. This game was a complete opposite flip side of the story. Miami gashed them. Tua looked elite. Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards receiving. I know it's Tyreek, but Brandon Staley deserves a lot of flack for this loss, leaving J.C. Jackson on an island, coming off of a torn patella tendon tear, against Tyreek Hill, the fastest player in the NFL. What the fuck are you thinking? You're supposed to be a defensive-minded guru, and over the last 3 years of you coaching, you have some of the worst performances on a defense with star studs. Like, it is one of the most star-studded defenses in the NFL. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Derwin James. You add Eric Kendricks to the mix. You know, J.C. Jackson, but he's coming off of an injury. Michael Davis is supposed to be really good. Asante Samuel Jr., and yet they cannot piece it together. I do not know what to say. I think the offense is going to be fine. I am a little curious to see if it's going to kind of lean more towards the rushing because of how effective it was. Some fans are a little bit upset because we want to see Justin Herbert. We paid all this money for him. We want to see him throw the ball. But if you don't have to throw the ball, do what wins. And you can win scoring 34 points 99% of the time, unless you have the worst defense in the NFL. And that's what the Chargers had. They had the worst defense in the NFL this week 1, and against the Jags in the second half. So it's kind of translating a little bit. I'm a little bit worried for the defense of the Chargers. I think the offense will be fine, but they definitely need to figure things out on the defensive side of the ball. So I have them dropping 3 spots.
All right. I have, what are we on, 16?
16.
On 16? Yeah, so at 16, dropping 1 spot, I have the Vikings. Not a pretty game for them on the defensive side of the ball. And Kirk Cousins could have played better, even though he threw for like 300 yards. Justin Jefferson is an absolute monster. Jordan Addison is going to be a good wide receiver for them. Wasn't too impressed with Alexander Madison, but I think the Bucs came to play. I still think this could be a potential playoff team. I think they could possibly win the division. I think anything's possible for that division besides the Bears winning. Yeah, I mean, I could see the Lions, I could see the Vikings, and I could see the Packers now. I see it. There is a road for that. But yeah, just ugly loss to the Vikings. They're continuing that trend from last year where they're going to lose close games and all that jazz. At 15, moving up 1 spot, I have the Saints. Derek Carr looked good. Chris Olave looks great. That defense looks great. And Michael Thomas, thank you for staying healthy and coming back, because it's great to see you on the field. Also, this team's going to get Alvin Kamara in 2 weeks. So that's another
Rashid
weapon.
Shaheed is a deep threat. Rashid Shaheed is a deep threat. And I like that he's got sure hands.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is a very underrated wide receiver in the NFL. And I think that's pretty much because of poor quarterback play that they've had the last couple of years. So
yeah,
I think this team in general is like set to succeed, especially with a weak division
and a weak schedule.
Yes.
Also, Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill are weapons. Yeah. So I think this might be the best team Derek Carr has been on. So I'm excited for the Saints. Who do you got at 15, Dane?
15, I have Seattle. I have them dropping 3 spots. First half was competitive. Second half, they had 14 total yards, whatever it was. It was pathetic. And this is against my 31 ranked team at the beginning of the season, week 1.
Mm-hmm.
It is a division opponent. I get that, but something just did not click in the second half. Like, halftime adjustments were not made. This defense did not do anything. They let Puka Nacua just run all over them. Tutu Atwell run all over them. Kyron Williams run all over them. They couldn't get a defensive stop, and they couldn't do anything offensively. You have like 14 total yards in the second half. Something has to give. I think Geno Smith will be fine, but I think that there might be a slight regression, and I think we might be coming more towards the mean of his actual quarterback play. Last year was phenomenal by Geno Smith, but I'm a little concerned. It is week 1. I think they'll bounce back. I think that they're still going to be like a good team. But if they play how they did in the second half against the Rams, I am concerned for the future of this team.
Yeah, so I have them at 14. And I have the Seahawks dropping 6 spots. Everything you said is correct, except I think Geno Smith has already regressed. He started off the season hot last year. hot, 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 hot. And then his final like 5 games, he like posted like an 89 quarterback rating or something like that. And that's including in the playoffs. I think it carried on to this season. Like I said, I like Geno Smith. I like his story. I liked him in college, but we've seen he's been in the league. Like this is not his second year. Like it's completely
This isn't
possible.
his first rodeo for sure.
Yeah. Like it's not completely possible where he just had a streak of hot games and he's going back to the norm. He luckily for him, he got freaking paid, but I don't know. I don't know because that was absolutely atrocious. And he did not look good at all Sunday. So yeah, it was a bad performance all around for the Seahawks.
Okay. At 14, this is where I have New Orleans. I have them moving up 3 spots, even though they only won by 1 point. I think they went against a great defense. I think Tennessee has one of the better defenses when healthy in the NFL. And like Jake had already mentioned, they have weapons everywhere. Mm-hmm. This defensive line looks disgusting. Secondary looked good. Offensive pieces all over the place. Derek Carr's in a good situation, and I think they're going to take advantage of a weak conference. I would say the NFC is weaker than the AFC this year, but weak division, easy roadmap to the playoffs. They have an easy schedule, so I don't know, man. New Orleans got to watch out for them. 14. Mm-hmm. At 13, this is where I have Minnesota. I have them dropping 2 spots. Just didn't click. They had some big time plays. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins had some things going. Alexander Madison didn't look good, but you're expected to beat Tampa Bay, and it just did not look pretty, in my opinion. So it's a week 1 matchup. I'm trying not to take too much away because I think this will still be a high powered offense, but Minnesota dropping 2 spots.
All right. At 13, I have the Chargers staying put. I am not as low on the Chargers as you are. I think they played great. Granted, the defense needs some improvement, but they made plays when they absolutely needed to. They made plays all game, and the offense looks great. Justin Herbert looks great. The run game looks great. The offensive line looks great. Yeah, I'm not as low as the Chargers are as you are. And I really think they just played a really elite offense. I think that was their problem. I mean, most people cannot guard Tyreek Hill, let alone, someone coming off an ACL injury. So I think you need to give your team a little bit more credit. I think they played phenomenally. They had a chance to go and win that game, except for, blitzes and an intentional grounding. I think they played great. I think they will be fine. One
thing that I do try and take away from this game is week 1, Miami played Baltimore last year and absolutely smashed them in the mouth. And Baltimore had a good defense. So I'm trying to have that mindset. It is just hard when it was just so ugly on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, JC Jackson, I have to say, even though he had an interception, he fucked up by taking it out of the end zone. He had a costly PI to give them 3 points with 9 seconds left in the game. Yeah, I mean, it is an elite offense. I will give Miami that. They have the fastest offense in the NFL, so good for them.
I mean, you have to think about it, too. The Dolphins gave up just as many points as the Chargers, and we're probably a lot higher with the Dolphins. So I think the Chargers will be fine. I pray that they can stay healthy.
Yeah, and Austin Eckler already injured.
God damn it. I forgot I have him on my team. All right. So at 12, I have the Browns moving up 5 spots.
Nice.
Nice. There was rumors that the Browns would be great. I saw their roster, and you know what? They have a good roster. They have a good defense. They have some players on offense. It's just, what will we see from Deshaun Watson? And he played probably his best game as a Brown, in my opinion. It wasn't Houston Texans Deshaun Watson by any means, but he showed signs that he still got it. And they absolutely absolutely cream pied
It's funny. I was
the
going to say
Cincinnati
cream pie
Bengals.
too.
Cream pied, manhandled, raw dogged, long dick styled the Bengals. All right. It was a beat down. I'm impressed by it. I'm not going to move them up too much more than that. I think this is a fringe playoff team. I think they can fight for this division is going to be interesting as well. Who we got? The Ravens, Brown. Oh, besides the Steelers, I counted them out last year. I'm not gonna make a bet with the pocket chip or anything, but I just don't think the Steelers are elite compared to the other three teams, and I think the Browns have the potential to be elite. So yeah, I got the Browns at 12.
At 12, I have Detroit. I have them moving up 2 spots. I like the win, and if you guys have been listening to the podcast over the offseason, I am very high on Detroit this year. I wanted to put my money where my mouth is, and I bet basically that Detroit was going to win Kansas City. However, I do think Kansas City should have won this game. That's the only reason I didn't move them up higher, is because Kansas City was without Chris Jones. Now they have him back. Their wide receivers and Kadarius Toney, I'm going to single him out. He lost them this game. Patrick Mahomes did everything in his power without Travis Kelce to win this game, and Kadarius Toney single-handedly basically lost him this game. So
Agreed.
I'm not going to try and say Detroit didn't win this, but I think that realistically the expectations for Detroit winning this game were very slim to none. I'm just high on them. A win's a win. And they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champions. So good for them. I think they're going to be able to carry this momentum, but I think that they were kind of given a couple like pick sixes or drops. So I want to see them have a more dominant win over another team, and I think that they can. I think Detroit has a good team. I think the defense played better than I gave them credit for. I think the defense looked better. Offense, Amon-Ra St. Brown is that guy. Marvin Jones is not that guy. But Detroit.
You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
Yeah, I have Detroit at 12. 11, this is where I have Cleveland. I have them moving up 4 spots, so just 1 spot ahead of you. This defense was dominant. Granted, they are 6-1 against the Bengals since Joe Burrow has been the quarterback. I think the stat was they just play the Bengals really well. And I think that this Cleveland team has the potential to be a playoff team. I really do. I think that they're good. It is week 1, but they just absolutely shut down the Bengals. The Bengals could not do anything. This was Joe Burrow's lowest QBR of his entire career, right after he gets paid to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and they made him look like a chump. Like this Cleveland Browns defense This Cleveland Browns defense was just elite. Myles Garrett just showed why he is one of the best in the business. So yeah, this running attack got going. Deshaun Watson had a couple big plays here and there. Cleveland at 11.
You might call me crazy on this one, but at 11, dropping 7 spots, I have the Cincinnati Bengals.
I don't think you're crazy because I have them at 10. Spoiler alert. I guarantee neither Jake nor I think that they will end up here. I think that they will be 100% fine. But because of that performance, based off of week 1, these are week to week power rankings. We have to drop them.
Yes. I do think, how do I say this? It was fucking terrible. But I do think, there's a world where the Bengals don't make the playoffs. They're in a good division, man.
There is a world.
There is a world.
Absolutely.
There's a world where they don't make it past the first round of the playoffs. They're in a good conference. If they play like that, multiple times this year, they're not going to make the playoffs and they're not going to win a Super Bowl. I think they have everything on that team except for an offensive line. I don't know what the hell it is with the offensive line and the Cincinnati Bengals. It's trash. And they've made splash signings, but they continue to let Joe Burrow get smacked. And I know they're playing Myles Garrett. They're playing the Cleveland Browns. I don't give a shit, bro. You've been letting your franchise quarterback get freaking manhandled year after year. I'm sick of it, bro. Yeah, it was just a pathetic performance. I think, if I had to put money on it, they'll probably be top 7, top 5 at the end of the year. But it was just absolute pathetic performance. At 10, I have the Jags moving up one spot. It was a close game, but part of the reason, the defense still kept playing, kept them, took the game away from the Colts, and Calvin Ridley just proved that he's elite, man.
He's that.
He is that guy, pal. He's that guy. He is awesome. I'm excited for that Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley connection, and this team has weapons on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I'm excited for the Jags.
All right, 10. I already gave the spoiler alert. I dropped Cincinnati 7 spots just because of the week 1 performance. Jake and I are going to have them higher. I guarantee it. I guarantee that they're going to be fine. But I think partly due to the fact that Joe Burrow missed pretty much all of training camp with the calf strain is why we saw the performance we did, because he didn't have the reps. And he may not be 100% healthy with that calf strain. Like, maybe he said he's ready to go, but maybe in actuality, he's not the same quarterback that he was at the start of training camp before he got injured. So there is that possibility. I think this offense is going to be fine. You still have some of the best wide receivers in the NFL, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. This offensive line is bad, but Joe Mixon, he's good. The Bengals defense, I think, is still good. So yeah, I have Cincinnati at 10. At 9, kind of another shocker, I had the Buffalo Bills. I had them drop 5 spots. Reason being, I think Buffalo is very similar to Cincinnati. I think both of these teams are going to be higher in our power rankings near the end of the season. I think they're going to turn it around. But I know that they played a very good defense, but you just lost to Zach Wilson. Aaron Rodgers played 3 snaps. You lost to Zach Wilson. And you have one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. You have Stephon Diggs, James Cook. You drafted Dalton Kincaid. This defense is healthy. It's inexcusable, in my opinion. I know you played on the road in New York. Everyone was hyped, especially for Aaron Rodgers. But you got to put up more than, 17 points, 13 points?
16, I think.
16 points. You got to put up more than 16 points. It's a great defense. I get that. But you have elite playmakers. Gabriel Davis as well. Like, you got to make something happen. It just did not look pretty. And the reason I dropped them significantly is 4 total turnovers by a Josh Allen. One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. 3 interceptions, a fumble that was just given to the Jets to put them in a scoring position. It's just inexcusable. So because of that, I dropped them 5 spots to my number 9.
Interesting. At 9, I got the Ravens moving up 1 spot. Not like overly impressed by their win. I'm also a little curious about that run game. Like, I wonder who's going to take over the backfield. I don't think it's as scary without J.K. Dobbins. But, Lamar didn't look that great. He fumbled multiple times. Hopefully they can get Mark Andrews back because Lamar needs him. And, the defense is good. So I don't know. I'm not ready. They're not a top 5 team to me. Lamar is kind of, he has me worried, man. I know he just got paid, but he kind of has me worried. He just has not looked like that passer from 2019. So we'll see. But yeah, I got the Ravens moving up 1 spot. At 8, I have the Jets moving up 1 spot. And the only reason I was lower on the Jets than Dane, and the only reason I have them only moving up 1 spot is for one reason and one reason only. Zach Wilson. If Aaron Rodgers was on this team and he balled out and they destroyed the Bills or something and that defense played like they did last night, I would have no problem moving them up into the top 5. But Zach Wilson is a big question mark for me. I think I don't think. I might be a little too high on the Jets, to be honest.
I'm higher than you are.
So yeah, it just scares me seeing Zach Wilson lead that team. Honestly, I'm hoping for the best. I hope he can. I hope he turns it around because that would be awesome. That'd be a hell of a story. But I need to see it first. So yeah, I got the Jets at 8.
At 8, this is where I have Jacksonville. I am curious to see where the Jags end up at the end of the season. I think that they have all the tools to be a top 5 team. I really do. Trevor Lawrence, elite prospect, elite quarterback. Calvin Ridley, great. Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, even though he made like a boneheaded play, kind of, found a stride, got a touchdown. Defense, I think, is going to be fine. Played a division opponent. Wasn't the most dominant performance by any means against a Indianapolis Colts team that I don't think is top tier, but it is tough to game plan against a rookie quarterback that can use his legs as a weapon. So I think Jacksonville is going to be just fine against the better teams. They're going to be competitive in every matchup, I think, this year. So yeah, Jags at 8. Number 7 for me, this is where I have Baltimore. I had them at 8 previously. I have them moving up 1 spot. Like Jake said, it was against a weaker opponent in the Houston Texans. It was at home. Run game's going to take a dip, especially losing J.K. Dobbins. But I think Lamar will figure it out. I am worried as well to a certain extent. He just has not looked the same. I think with Mark Andrews back, having Zay Flowers, who's emerging, and then OBJ, I think this, and Rashad Bateman, he actually made a couple good plays. So I think this team will be fine. The defense looked really good. So that's, I think, why I have them in the top 10 is because of their defense right now. I want to see more from the offense. They have playmakers to make it happen. They just need to stay healthy. So Ravens at 7.
All right, Dane. You're going to be happy with this one. I got the Lions at number 7, moving up 5 spots.
My boy.
And I know the Chiefs pretty much pissed that game away, but the Lions were in that game the entire game. Granted, they were missing 2 of their top 3 players on defense and offense, but the Lions showed up, man. They proved to the world that they can play against elite teams. They can play in prime time, and they can win. I think the Lions are legit. Jared Goff looked good. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be so much fun to watch. That line is elite, that O-line. And then the defense made plays, can make plays. I'm excited to watch Aiden Hutchinson. I was impressed
with Campbell, their rookie linebacker that they drafted, who I was like, why the fuck would they draft him that high?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of know more than us. That they do.
So I think the Lions are for real. I do. It is week 1. They could do lion type things and just make everyone hate their lives. But, pretty much all of America is behind the Lions, I would say. I would not mind seeing the Lions go far unless it's against my team. But, yeah, I like the Lions. And then at number 6, dropping 1 spot, I have the Bills. I don't think it's unexcusable that they lost. I think Josh Allen played absolutely terrible, but I think he was victim of an elite defense. And I think the Bills defense played just as good as the Jets defense. I think the Bills are still a great team. I just have a hard time putting them up against some other teams. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl, unfortunately, but Josh Allen definitely has to play better than that. Because he could have won that game. And then I'd bet you'd have a different opinion about him and the Bills if they won. It was a terrible performance. Josh Allen usually has 2 or 3 of those a season. He is kind of a turnover machine, but when he's on, he's on. So that's why I just can't drop the Bills too much.
Okay. 6 for me is Miami. I have them moving up 3 spots. They absolutely gashed the Chargers defense. This offense looked unfrickin' believable. And not only that, they're going to be getting Devon Achane, who I think is going to be utilized in this offense because he is the fastest running back coming out of the draft this most recent year. Pairing him with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, you have 3 players who are running in the 4-2s or 4-3s, which is absolutely insane. Mike McDaniels knows how to coach an offense. Defense looked suspect. Granted, I don't know how much of that is the Chargers offense being good, but yeah, I think Miami has the potential to be elite this year. And I think that this offense is elite, but I think the defense needs to improve to be in that top 5. They're borderline there, but they do need to improve on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, Miami, number 6. You did 6 already, right?
But yes, I did.
Number 5 for me, this is where I have the Jets. I had them at 6 last week. I'm only moving them up 1 spot. Like Jake, I am worried about Zach Wilson. I think, like we touched on earlier when we did the Monday night recap, this defense can propel them into games and win them games. We'll see what happens at the quarterback position. Maybe they pick someone up in free agency or on the waiver, whatever it is. But yeah, the Jets defense looked elite. It looked freaking elite. And then that running game, Breece Hall looked amazing. So I'm really excited to see what the Jets can do with a subpar quarterback. But overall, I think this team is set to win. So if they can figure out the quarterback position, or if they can get Zach Wilson to play better somehow, watch out for the New York Jets. Jets at 5 for me.
I think we did see what the Jets could do with a subpar quarterback.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a roller coaster. All right, top 5, baby. Top 5. This one might surprise some people, but this team is missing their best player besides their quarterback. I'm not scared of this team's weapons, wide receiver weapons. And, they did get their best player on defense, but I got the Chiefs at number 4.
Did you do 5? Who was your 5?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got the Chiefs at number 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have them dropping 4 spots. It was just a bad performance for them. Even Patrick Mahomes didn't look. He was underthrowing some balls, throwing some ducks out there. But he's still the best quarterback in the NFL. They do this every year. They have some weird games, and then they end up making it to the fucking AFC Championship. It's annoying as fuck, but it just I wasn't too impressed with the Chiefs. And I still think, and they had a chance to win the game. So yeah, I got the Chiefs at 5.
Who do you have
at
at 4?
I think this is the second team I have who won, who I'm dropping because it wasn't a great performance. Eagles. I got the Eagles at 4, dropping 2 spots. They almost lost to the Patriots. They didn't look good. Jalen Hurts didn't look great. The defense made some plays. Jalen Carter had like one of the best rookie performances in history. But even the rest of the defense, it's young. It's a new group. They got to learn to play better against the Patriots. Unless the Patriots are legit, I don't know. But I think just some other teams played way better than the Eagles. So that's mostly the reason I dropped them, is because other teams played way better. So
okay, at 4 for me, that's where I have Kansas City. I have them dropping 3 spots. Just goes to show that you need wide receivers in the NFL to succeed, even with the best quarterback in the NFL. Defense still played pretty well against a good offense of the Detroit Lions. Chris Jones comes back. It's going to be even better. I'm not concerned. They're going to be getting Travis Kelce back. They get Chris Jones back. So this team's going to be just fine. I do worry a little bit about the receiving core other than Travis Kelce. Hopefully someone can distinguish or separate themselves as the number 2 receiving threat, but can't drop Kansas City too much, even off a loss. But yeah, Kansas City at 4. Number 3, I have Dallas. I have Dallas moving up 4 spots. That was the most dominant performance from special teams and defense I've ever seen. It was
the most dominant performance in their franchise history.
It was absolutely ridiculous. Micah Parsons is that guy. He is that guy.
He's that guy, pal.
He's that guy. They didn't even have to do anything offensively, really. Tony Pollard looked great. Dak didn't have to do shit. But this special teams and defense was just legit. And because of that, I think this team can go wherever they need to. We'll see how they look if they make it to the postseason, because once they get to the postseason, it's a different team. But during the regular season, this defense is going to carry them. And I think the offense will be just fine, even with Mike McCarthy calling the calls. So yeah, Dallas at 3.
Cool. At 3, moving up 3 spots, I have the Miami Dolphins. This was my dark horse Super Bowl pick. That offense is legit. Like, scary. I think this, yeah, that's the number 1 offense in the NFL right now, in my opinion. I watched all the games. I have Sunday ticket now, so I'm able to watch all the games. I can watch all the clips. That's the number 1 offense, in my opinion. That's the one to beat. They have speed. They have coaching. The only thing that worries me about the Dolphins is health. Tua has not stayed healthy 1 season. Will this be the year? If this is the year he stays healthy, holy fucking shit. Sky's the limit for the Miami Dolphins. That's why I don't want you to be too hard on the Chargers, because I think they played a really good team and they made plays on defense, man. Vic Fangio has those boys playing. They have players. Jalen Phillips, Christian Wilkes. Is that his name? Christian Wilkinson? What's his name?
Christian Wilkinson. Is it Christian Wilkes?
Is Christian Wilkes. My fault. My fault, Miami fans. He's a beast.
Or Wilkins, Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, Christian Wilkins. Thank you. God, I sound like a 40-year-old man when you don't say the right word. You call it like, whatever. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that dude, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, dude. This team
doesn't even have Jalen Ramsey right now, who's expected to come back in December.
Dude, thank you for reminding me of that. Dude, this team, if they can stay healthy, is going to be scary. I truly believe that. So, yeah, I got the Dolphins at 3.
What do you have at 2?
At 2, they do this to us every year. But I got the Dallas Cowboys moving up 5 spots. Like Dane said, that was one of the most dominant performances I've ever fucking seen. On Monday night, on primetime, it was, whatever the Browns did to the Bengals, the Cowboys did that to the Giants tenfold. It was pathetic. But I told Dane, like, I told you, sorry, like I'm not talking to you. I told you, I think that Cowboys have the potential to have the number 1 defense this year. I think, it's going to be between them, the Niners, the Jets. I wouldn't put the Patriots up there yet, but I think the Jets, Niners, and Cowboys probably have the top 3 defenses, in my opinion. And the Eagles. We'll see about them. It's a young squad, so I don't know what to say about them. But man, Dak, we didn't even talk about how much Dak had to throw. Let me just read this real quick. Oh, he threw 13 times. Or he threw 24 times, but he only had to make 13 completions. That's how much this defense dominated. They didn't even need him. The run game, Tony Pollard, he's going to be special. If, hopefully he stays healthy, but he stayed healthy in the season last year. I wasn't very high on the Cowboys at the beginning of the season, but seeing them in action, it's pretty scary. I think this might be the best team they have. At least on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I got the Cowboys at 2.
At 2, I have Philadelphia staying put. Not much to take away. It was a tough game against New England. Week 1, I think Bill Belichick really coached a hell of a game for the Patriots. Like you said, Philadelphia didn't look great by any means, but they still came out with the dub. And I think that they're going to be just fine. I think Jalen Hurts will be just fine. I think Dallas Goedert will get going. Hopefully, I think they have a running back by committee. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. This team's loaded on defense. This team's going to be just fine. So, and they're my number 2 in the power rankings, which means we both have your boys, the San Francisco 49ers, at number 1. It was a dominant performance against a very high-praised team. A lot of expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers coming into this week. Kind kind
went
of
out the window.
overhyped. Yeah, it might have been a little bit overhyped, but I think it's more so just the performance by the 49ers, and they just look great, man. And you should be happy for your team. I think that if there's going to be a year for them to win the Super Bowl in the next couple of years, this is the year. I'll let you take it away, but yeah, they looked great. By the way, really quick before I actually get off, I did pick the Jets to win. Jake did pick Buffalo. So technically,
Oh, yes, sir. Yes,
so
you are
technically,
winning in the league.
I won 13 games this week. Jake won 12, I believe.
Yep.
For week one.
Yep. Wow, thanks for reminding me. Didn't mean to do that. Yep. So Dane is beating me in the picks, but back to the Niners. It's easy. This defense was the number one defense last year. They're playing like a number one defense again. And it's easy to talk about the weapons, and I just want to talk about this. I think what has taken them to the next level is the play of Brock Purdy. And I know he's a second-year quarterback, but I thought he looked great during the game. I went and watched some tape, like on a live video.
Like all 22 almost or something.
Yeah, just someone I follow on Instagram, but he was breaking down the film on Brock Purdy. Dude, this dude's legit, man. I think he's really good. Like, he processes the field. He's sneaky athletic. He's elite. I mean, he's a fucking captain with all that veteran presence on that team. He got voted as a captain, as a second-year player. Like, that should tell you all you need to know about this guy. I think this guy's legit. I'm not going to put him over, like, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I'm not crazy. But do I think he can be a top half of the league quarterback? 100%. I still want to see more, obviously. Like, I don't want this to just be a flash in the pan. But, I mean, he did this for, 8 games last year? First game of the season, coming off a UCL injury. Well, fuck, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. I just think he's legit. I also think he's surrounded by elite weapons and an elite run game and a great head coach. But, I mean, so is Trey Lance. So is Jimmy Garoppolo. So is Nick Mullins. So is all these other players who have not been able to run this offense quite like Brock Purdy. Dominant performance from the 49ers. I think they're legit. I think it's their year, knock on wood. And they're my number one team right now.
All right, guys, that does it for this episode. We recap Monday night. If you're still listening to this, what are you doing with your life? But we finished our power rankings. So that is week 2. Guys, there's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of changes. Don't get too down on yourself. Don't get too down on your teams. I know that there's a lot of overreactions that happen after week 1. I am myself included
Your
in that.
Advice, Dane.
Yes,
Your
I
own
am.
advice.
I am myself included in that boat with the rest of you guys who had a rough week. But future is bright for most of us. Some of us.
And I also want to remind the listeners, whoever is listening, that I did beat Dane this week in fantasy. I gave him a pretty good smackdown. He unfortunately didn't play Tua Tagovailoa, and
I fell on the sword with that.
He probably would have almost won.
Yeah, I fell on the sword with that one, guys, mostly because I didn't want to put him against my Bolts. That's more of just like a selfish reason. If I wanted to play fantasy, I would have played him. But either
he
way,
was playing either way.
Yeah, either way, it also doesn't help when 2 of your players get goose egg because they tear their Achilles in Aaron Rodgers and J.K. Dobbins. That does not help. Oh, but Dallas got me 40 points in fantasy. Woo!
Woo! All right. Thanks for listening. Anything else, Dane, before we close it out?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Thanks for listening. And as always, peace.